Hi, this is Laura. This is a summary of the materials for this week, and you will find this information in the Canvas site under the Module 1, Week 1 resources and readings. I'm just going to go through this quickly. You can go through it on your own as well, but to give you a sense of what we're going to cover this week in terms of materials and to hopefully help set a foundation for you going forward with the terminology. So the week 1 topics, learning experience. We'll talk about what exactly is a learning experience design, LXD, what is learning experience design, principles of user experience design, which is called UX, principles of user interface design, which is called UI, and then user experience design in practice, which is really fundamentally what we will be doing all during the course. And then I'll go have an overview of week 1 activities, which there's what's called a design narrative, an empathy map, a point of view statements, and something called a Mad Libs. And those are all explained in Canvas, but I am giving you some examples here. So what I want for those who have taken prior courses, I wanted to draw a connection between learning experience design and user experience and user interface design. And so if you've had a prior course, another LXD course, the learning experience design, you spent a lot of time doing designerly ways of knowing, coming up with a prototype, and then testing it. And that was also rooted in coming up with what they called a wicked problem. Similarly, in this course, the user experience, user interface design will ask you to come up with what's called a design narrative, and that will essentially be the problem that you're going to be working on this course. But you're going to do that with a little bit different perspective, where user interface design, user experience design, and user experience design in practice all come together. So that's how these things are in fact linked. And so I'm going to go through the next couple slides that have explanations. I'm not going to read everything to you. I'm just going to give you a high-level explanation of what these are. So a learning experience is essentially any situation you encounter that takes a certain amount of time and that leaves an impression. The one thing that I want to make clear is for this course, a learning experience is an experience you learn from. So when you're thinking about the problem or the design narrative that you would like to put together, think of it in the context of a learning experience, and that will help you. I've also provided at the end of each of these pages a link for you to read more if you choose to. Learning experience design then takes that learning experience, and it is a process of creating learning experiences that enable the learner to achieve the desired learning outcome in a human-centered and goal-oriented way. And it is an intersection of a number of different kinds of fields of learning. So it's taking instructional design and user experience design all to a different level. User experience design is it has a long definition here, but it's basically the experience of perceptions that users have based on a product, or in this case, it might be a learning environment or a learning activity. And it includes a number of different kinds of disciplines that we will be talking about, much of which in this environment is human-computer interaction. User interface design is the design, it's the process that designers go through to build an interface, essentially a portal, if you will, but some kind of front end in a software or an application that allows a user to interact with your design, your overall design. So I want to make clear what the difference between user interface design versus user experience design, and this is a good analogy here, but UI is concerned with like the entry point or the surface of what you experience, and the overall feel of a design. And UX covers the entire spectrum of the user experience. So it's not just the way you initially interact with some computer or software application, it is actually the full-on experience. And so that's really what we want to focus on, but user interface design is an important element in terms of appeal. And so the analogy is to picture user experience design as a car with UI design as just one component such as the driving console. All right, and then user experience design in practice. This again is where we're really applying the principles from the other areas. And so these are this area relates also to your whole class discussion this week, which is for you to kind of start thinking about the principles and values that you might want to have as a designer and learn from others. And here are some examples, meaning so setting information in a logical, natural order, maintaining consistent standards, making things easy to find, make designs efficient and streamlined. And again, this is a good link that gives you more, but you will be asked to consider some of these principles and values as you go forward in your own design narratives and the problems that you'll be addressing during the course. Now, here we get into the activities that you will be doing. So design narrative and empathy map. I'm just giving you kind of a big overview of what they are. There's more details in Canvas, but a design narrative is essentially kind of the problem that you're going to be working on this course. And again, some of you may have had a wicked problem, if you will, from a prior course. You're welcome to continue to work on that if that is still a real issue for you, but you're going to be asked to think about something that is in your profession or your life that is meaningful to you. And so in the designerly ways of thinking that you may have learned before, some of that's in the resources for this course, but this takes it to, again, a kind of another but related level where this idea of design narrative and empathy map are allowing you to empathize with the learner at the same time that you're trying to define and ideate with what the problem is that you're going to be addressing. So you're going to identify a design narrative, which is essentially the problem focus for you during this course, and then build an empathy map, which is for you to start identifying with the user. So then subsequent to that, you are going to share your design narratives in a shared workspace in a discussion board in Canvas, and then you will share with other peers and receive feedback from them on your shared information, your design narrative, and you're going to create two things. One is what's called a point of view statement, which is also called a Mad Lib. So these point of view statements or Mad Libs allow you and your peers to assist in developing and framing the problem statement in a way that gives you something further to work on for this UX, UI activities in this course. And these are some samples. So this point of view template, it asks you to think about the user, their need, and their insight. So here's a good example. The user is a person who lives in a city. Their need is to use a car, and there's some insight. They may or may not want to own their car. And so if you're going to then write what's called a Mad Lib, you would say your user, let's just say an adult person who lives in a city needs to have a car because they need to be able to get to work on a regular basis. So something like that would be a simple example of point of view statements, and then you craft them into what's called a Mad Lib. And here again, there's a link to give you more examples of those, and there's examples in the Canvas site where you have this assignment. So you will first do your narrative, your design narrative, you will then, and your empathy map, you will share those out, and then you will have feedback, and you will give feedback to others in these point of view statements and Mad Libs. And I know right now that might not make any sense, but go ahead and work through the resources, and hopefully it will start to. Otherwise, reach out to me. Then subsequent to that, once you have the point of view statements and the Mad Libs that are provided by your peers, they will also help craft something called a how might we statement. And this is then furthering you down the road of identifying kind of your problem statement so that you can essentially move forward in like a prototype and testing of what you want to do in this course. So you will get additional feedback, as I mentioned, from point of view statements that are also called Mad Libs, and then you will reframe those. So here's a good example. If your point of view statement is teenage girls in our Mad Lib format need to eat nutritious food in order to thrive and grow in a healthy way, the how might we question would be, how might we make healthy eating appealing to young females, or how might we inspire teenage girls towards healthier eating options? So as you do your small group assignment, you're looking at the materials that have been submitted. You will do point of view statements, aka Mad Libs, and you will do how might we statements to help further along the development of individual design narratives. And so in summary, what I want to show you is For week one, you're going to have first review LX, LXD, and resources. You'll create a design narrative and empathy map. You'll share with your peers, and then you'll further develop your point of view statements and your Mad Libs and how might we questions. So visually, here's the principles that we're going to be learning. You will get to know your users through the empathy mapping. You will then also start identifying the user needs through your point of view Mad Lib statements. Then you will further frame and filter your statements down to how might we questions that give you guidance for the rest of this course. And then ultimately, this all leads to the principles, the design narrative, the empathy map, point of view statements, how might we questions. They ultimately lead to this user experience design and practice. I know it's a lot for the first week one, but please bear with me. I will start to come together, and always be sure to reach out to me if you need anything. Thank you.